Okay, so now I'm doing another video. You may or may not have watched my first video. But we are going to talk about ratios, okay? This is an intro to ratios, and this should be, I think, Monday, and I'm at a conference all day, so you need to do this, okay? So let's talk about what a ratio is. You've already done a ratio. You've done ratios in 5th grade, okay? So for example, if let's use, today we're going to, I just pushed it in. We're still going to see if it works, okay? Today, we're going to use stars, okay? And then we're going to use hearts. But I only want 2 of them. Can you see the hearts? You can't hardly see the hearts. Let me go to blue. You can see them better. There we go. Okay, so when you're talking about a ratio, what a ratio does is it compares 2 quantities to each other, okay? So for example, if I wanted to find the ratio of stars to hearts, okay, you would count the number of stars and you would count the number of hearts, right? Okay, so for example, one thing, when we're talking about ratios, one thing I'm a big stickler on, and you're gonna hear me say it a lot, is you always need to write your ratio in words first. So what I mean by that, write down the 2 things that you're comparing in the order that the problem gives it to you, okay? So for example, if I say, what is the ratio of stars to hearts, okay? In Word, you're gonna write stars to hearts, okay? That way there is no confusion on where your numbers go. Okay, so for example, if we count our stars over here, we have 4. And then you count your hearts, and there are 2. Okay, so our ratio of stars to hearts would be 4 to 2. Now, a ratio is not a fraction, but that looks like a fraction, doesn't it? Okay, and still you have to make sure that your ratios are in simplest form. Okay, you always want to reduce them. So here I have 4 and 2. I know that I can reduce them by 2. Okay, and then 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So the ratio of stars to hearts here is 2 to 1. Okay, you can also do this visually if you look at it. If I'm going to compare 2 quantities between stars and hearts, I'm going to break them into equal groups. Okay. So what that means is I know now for every 2 stars, there is 1 heart. Okay? So for every 2 stars, there is 1 heart. For every 2 stars, there is 1 heart. Okay, so that's how you can break it down visually. Now, when you're talking about ratios, there's 3 ways that you can write them. Okay? First way, being a fraction. Okay, this is probably the most common way you're going to see it written too. Another way that you can write ratios is with a colon, okay? So it could also look like, so we have our fraction, right? 2 to 1. You can write it as a colon, using a colon, so 2 colon 1, okay? And then you can also write it using the word 2. So you could say 2, 2, 1. So those are the 3 forms that you can write a ratio in, as a fraction, with a colon, and with the word 2. Okay, so you need to remember that. Now, there's a couple different ways that you can use ratios. So you can compare, if you have a group of shapes, okay, you can compare part of the group to another part of the group, just like we did here. We compared, right here is our entire group, okay? We compared our stars to our hearts, part of the group to another part of the group, okay? You can also use ratios to compare part of your group to the entire group. Okay, so what I mean by that is I'm going to scoot this over a little. Okay, and I'm going to draw, this time we're going to use triangles. Okay, and we're going to use squares. Okay. So now we're talking triangles to squares, okay? So what I mean by comparing part of a group to the whole group, okay, is if I want you to find the ratio of triangles to the total shapes.